So Jenny, tell us a little bit about what we're drinking right now.
It's Fifth Element. And I first made it in '07. I think it wasn't released probably till '08 or yeah, something like that. So, a little bit ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's I think it's a farmhouse ale, but other people have other opinions about it. But I tried to pattern it after like late 1800s, early 1900s, Wallonia region brewers that were also farmers. And the farming was their mainstay. And then when they, couldn't farm and it was winter out, they would make these beers and then they would let them age until the spring and summer. And they had to go through the fields and then they would, drink them as their provisional ale. So I started with the saison yeast, and then I put it in oak, and then aged it in oak organisms, and I used wild yeast.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are scared of Brett because they think it is a microorganism, which is a bacteria, and so they won't bring it into their brewery, whereas Brett is a yeast, and so lives and dies like a yeast. So don't be scared, use Brett. But with using the bacteria and stuff, you have to have separate hoses, separate pumps, and all of that. So first I made a pilgrimage in 2004, to Belgium with a lot of my friends. I have got, I'm friends with, Matty from Firestone, and he actually gave me the barrels to make my Fifth Element in. He makes double barrel ale and makes them in barrels. And so then I got those barrels. That's what all my barrels in my brewery are from that. And then my friend John from Bell's and a bunch of my friends, Fal from Anderson Valley. And so we all just kind of took a pilgrimage to Belgium together because we had never been. And we just started drinking throughout the country. And I came back and just fallen in love with a lot of different beers there, a lot of the Abbey beers, but especially the sour beers. Dre Fontaine Goose comes to mind, Old Goose. And when I came back, I started developing this beer. I went over to the local beer geek bar and called the Bayou, and we dropped about $80 between me and my assistant. Kind of got a buzz, really expensive. Drank a bunch of different stuff, Cantillon Iris, things like that, and tried to figure out what we wanted to make. And we decided we wanted it to be sour. We wanted to use a saison yeast because we like saison. So we kind of patterned it after an old world farmhouse ale. So I had to utilize so many people that are close to me in the industry, and I had to call them. And Vinny from Russian River was really a huge supporter and a huge giver of the information. So I utilized everyone that I knew. My friend Dick from Elysian and Garrett from Brooklyn, and on the bottle conditioning through New Belgium, and that is a little bit of. I don't know if it was La Terroir. Yeah, I think it was. Is in here because I went to their foeders, which are their big oak vessels, and I tasted them all. And I picked the one I liked the best that had a little bit of light peach flavors to it, but no fruit was added. And Lauren sent me a growler of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I inoculated my barrels with. So that's where I got my microorganisms.
Oh.
And so we named one of the barrels after Lauren. And so the Fifth Element became, when you give a tour of a brewery, it's always like, there's 4 ingredients in beer: malted barley, hops, water, and yeast. And this is how we make beer.
Yeah.
And that's great. But when you start going into these beers, it's a whole different world. And there's this fifth element that came into play in my life, not just the 4. And that was the community of brewing.
Yeah.
And also the barrel.
Yeah.
It took me a year to design the beer.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm like, the last beer I made, I can design in like 4 minutes. It took me a year to figure out how to make that beer. And not that it's where it needs to be, it's just took me a year to even get it into the bottle. So it took a long time. Well, get it into the oak, and then it took a year to get it into the bottle. So it took 2 years from the beginning of the process.
You've done a great job with this beer. I'm actually looking forward to drinking. You have another sour that you did.
529,
The dark brown sour.
Yeah, it's kind of an old Brune / Flanders red. It's a little sour to be an old Brune, but it does have some complexity in it.
Yeah.
So it takes it, it's not either or, but it's kind of in that category. So.